Amazing rescue. Pregnant woman's distress text reveals an unexpected lifeline from a billionaire. Emily's fingers trembled as she typed, a soft glow from her smartphone illuminating the dark corner of her cramped apartment. The weight of her world pressed down, each breath a struggle. She had just clocked out after another draining shift at the clinic. Exhaustion mixed with anxiety twisted in her gut. Pregnant, alone, and now, left behind by the one person she had counted on, Jason. The reality of an unplanned pregnancy flooded her vision with tears, blurring everything but a desperate need for help. How had she ended up here? Her thumb hovered over the message field, her heart pounding as she typed Thomas's name. Once her mentor, he had offered guidance and inspiration during nursing school. Now, lying beneath the uncertainty of her life, could she ask him for help? She bit her lip, fear coiled in her chest. Was it greedy to reach out, to burden a successful philanthropist with her troubles? Could she accept assistance from someone like him without losing herself in the process? Before she could second-guess her decision, she pressed send. The message read, "I don't know how to do this alone." A moment later, her heart lurched as the familiar chime of a response shattered the silence. "Emily, I'm here for you. We'll figure this out together. Let us meet." That simple reply refracted through her mind, a beacon in the murky water of her life. But as relief washed over her, a pang of guilt followed. Accepting help felt tainted, stigma reinforcing the notion that reliance equated to weakness. The last thing she wanted was to appear like a charity case, taking from the same person who had empowered her. Is this what I've become? The question echoed in her mind, filling her chest with anxiety. She couldn't shake the sense of impropriety, even as another part of her craved the support. The turmoil intertwined, pushing her into an emotional battle that left her breathless. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sitting across the cafe table from Thomas felt surreal. Their laughter drifted through the air, but Emily felt the tension, like a steel wire pulled taut beneath the surface. With every story he shared about his charity endeavors, her heart twisted at the thought of the true struggles in Maple Grove. In just a few hours, she had gone from isolated and desperate to engaged with someone willing to assist her. But how could she reconcile this friendship with the looming judgment of the town? Then, the news broke. Headlines splashed across the screen displayed allegations against Thomas, revealing a scandal involving corruption in his charitable foundations that turned the community's whispers into roars. Emily's heart sank, the weight of fear crashing over her. The man she had just started to lean on was now at the center of a storm that threatened to consume everything she held dear. The moral dilemma rippled through her, tearing at the fabric of her principles. Thomas had once been a lifeline. Now his reputation felt like an anchor tethering her to disgrace. Did she stand by him, risk her emerging identity as a caregiver, as a mother? Or would she distance herself to protect her own fragile grip on stability? Emily felt the walls closing in. Her heart raced as she confronted the truth. She had once admired this man's integrity, but now found herself questioning her own. Could she champion his cause, enabling the very injustices she sought to expose? The decision hung over her like a guillotine, emotions wild and tangled, leaving her standing at a precipice, a choice filled with consequences. Would she defend the man lifting her from despair, or would she turn her back on him, losing everything? The following morning, Emily walked to the clinic feeling the weight of indecision resting heavily on her shoulders. People bustled by, each person engrossed in their own lives, unaware of the tempest swirling within her. How could she focus on her patients when her thoughts were consumed by Thomas and the scandal unfurling like a damning flag? The world felt oddly disconnected, as if she were moving through a dream where reality was obscured by thick fog. Everything felt blurred: the colors of the busy street, the laughter of colleagues, the murmurs of patients waiting to be seen. As she positioned herself behind the reception desk, the usual morning hustle began. Forms shuffled in and out, names called, and conversations flowed. Yet, Amidst the chaos, Emily was consumed by her internal struggle. The question of loyalty began to gnaw at her. Would standing by Thomas's side undermine the core values she held dear in her profession? But then, another voice whispered a softer tone that reminded her of what he had done for her. He believed in her potential to grow beyond her circumstances. Time stretched on, an agonizing loop as she flicked through patient files, each face reminding her of the lives she was committed to help. They came to her as individuals, each with their own stories, vulnerabilities, and hopes. It was in this realization that something shifted within her. A small, yet powerful spark ignited, allowing her to slide back onto the tracks of purpose. The swell of responsibility for her patients began to overwhelm the doubts surrounding her relationship with Thomas. During her lunch break, Emily met with a close friend, Sarah, at a nearby park. The crisp air was invigorating as she unfolded her heart. Each layer of doubt peeled back revealed the raw emotion beneath: fear of judgment, anxiety about the future, and the complexities of her relationship with Thomas. "I'm scared, Sarah. What if I'm enabling something terrible? Yet, what if he is innocent? Am I supposed to just walk away? It feels impossible," she confessed. Sarah listened intently, nodding in understanding. "You're standing at a crossroads, but remember who you are at your core. Helping someone doesn't diminish your integrity. It's about looking at the bigger picture. You have a valuable perspective as someone who knows him personally." The idea struck her like a bolt of lightning. Emily wasn't just a passive player in this unfolding drama. Her insights and experiences could serve as a unique lens through which to assess the situation. Thomas deserved a fair chance, and perhaps she could help clarify his intent. The notion of engaging her professional skills, not only as a nurse but also as a thoughtful advocate, started to take root in her mind. Returning home later that day, she felt more resolute. The fear still lingered, an unshakable companion, but she refused to let it dictate her actions. Could she channel this fear into something constructive? With each step, she envisioned herself approaching the complexities of Thomas's situation with a mixture of courage and caution. The moment she walked through her apartment door, resolve enveloped her. She had thoughts to articulate, pieces of a larger puzzle to assemble. Tomorrow, she would reach out to Thomas again, her intent clearer, now a determination to uncover the truth while navigating the turbulence of her own emotional landscape. She sat down at her small table and pulled her laptop toward her, fingers poised over the keys. Yet just as she began to draft a message, her phone buzzed unexpectedly, a news alert flashing across her screen that made her heart pound in her chest. Breaking, new evidence surfaces in Thomas's case. Whistleblower steps forward. Emily read the headline, her mind racing with implications. What could this mean for her choices? Would she regret not acting sooner? The urgency thrummed through her veins as she contemplated the fallout, ready to confront the storm she'd been trying so desperately to avoid. Emily's heart raced, each beat echoing the urgency of the news alert. New evidence: could this be the key to deconstructing the labyrinth of doubt that enveloped her? The word whistleblower reverberated in her mind, stirring a chaotic mix of anxiety and hope. Who would step forward now, and what secrets did they hold? The desire for clarity battled fiercely with her lingering fear, and she found herself grappling with the enormity of the moment. She blinked at the screen, grappling with a whirlwind of emotions that threatened to sweep her off her feet. Thomas was at the center of a storm she could barely comprehend. Was he truly innocent, or was there more to the narrative that had yet to surface? In that instant, a flicker of determination sparked within her, urging her to take control. She couldn't afford to stand still. Her next steps mattered more than ever. Setting her phone aside, Emily took a deep breath, steadying herself. She needed to gather information. Understanding the accusations in detail could empower her. This was no longer just about loyalty to Thomas. It was also an opportunity for her to grow, to become fully involved in a crisis that transcended her own fears. She thought of the patients lying in waiting for her at the clinic, fragile spirits clinging to the hope she provided, and realized that in denying the chaos within, she was indirectly denying them, too. Emily opened her laptop and began to scour the internet for any available details on the evidence and the identity of the whistleblower. She clicked through links, skimming through articles that painted Thomas in both shadow and light. Each new piece of information teased her understanding, edging her closer to the truth. As she pieced together snippets of testimonies and accusations, an idea emerged. She could ask Thomas directly, confront him with what she had learned. But first, she needed to reflect on what she hoped to gain from the conversation. Would she seek answers or merely validate her own biases? This was not just about him anymore. It was a turning point in her developing identity as a nurse and advocate. The realization filled her with a new sense of purpose, and she felt a surge of resolve wash over her. The next morning at the clinic, armed with her newfound clarity, Emily moved through her tasks with a newfound intensity. Each patient interaction felt charged, as if she could channel the electricity of her internal struggle into her daily work. When she encountered a frail, elderly man who seemed anxious and withdrawn, she found herself slowing down. Instead of rushing through the standard questions, she gently inquired about his day, allowing him the space to share lingering worries. That conversation illuminated the intertwined nature of vulnerability and strength, both in patients and in herself. However, in the back of her mind, Thomas loomed large, and the time for confrontation beckoned. She felt the pull to reach out to him growing stronger with each passing hour. After her shift, she found herself standing before her phone once again, fingers hovering over the screen as if summoning the courage to reveal her intent. And then, just as she summoned the last remnants of determination, her phone buzzed once more. The name Thomas flashed across the screen. Heart pounding, Emily settled her thoughts, realizing she had reached the moment of truth. With a mix of trepidation and resolve, she answered, knowing that this exchange could redefine everything. Emily? His voice was a blend of hope and apprehension, setting the stage for the confrontation she had both anticipated and dreaded. The whispers are growing louder. Thomas, she said, her breath caught in her throat. We need to talk. Awaiting his response, she was torn between readiness and instinctive doubt, but one truth held. The time had come to face everything that had been left unsaid. Emily's heart thudded in a rhythm of anxiety and determination as she awaited Thomas's reply. The silence stretched, feeling heavier with each passing second, amplifying her growing sense of both dread and excitement. The tone of his voice, laced with a hint of uncertainty, played through her mind again what lay beneath his initial hope. Okay, he finally answered, his voice steadying. Where do you want to meet? The choice of location felt monumental. Meeting in a neutral space seemed vital. Thus she suggested the nearby cafe, where they had shared light-hearted moments before suspicion darkened their friendship. How about the cafe on Maple Street? She proposed, trying to keep her tone even. Sure, I can be there in 20. As they disconnected, an unexpected wave of relief washed over Emily. But soon her mind shifted. What if this conversation led them into a deeper confrontation? She steadied herself by jotting down thoughts in her notebook, organizing both the uncertainties she felt about Thomas and the reflections she gathered from her patients about trust and vulnerability. That a glance into the mirror revealed tired eyes and a furrowed brow, a reminder of the personal stakes hidden beneath her professional demeanor. She was walking into this meeting as an advocate, seeking truth not just for Thomas but for herself. The dichotomy of her role loomed. He was the accused, and she was wrestling with the implications of siding with someone who could unravel her career if proven guilty. On her way to the cafe, each step echoed her inner dialogue. Trust versus caution, loyalty versus self-preservation. With the exterior world rushing past, she felt as though she was moving at a different pace, immersed in a fog of trepidation. But clarity began to crystallize. She was no longer merely a nurse. This challenge was forcing her to confront her identity as an advocate for the truth and the patients who depended on her discernment. The cafe bustled with the comforting chaos of everyday life. Yet Emily felt detached from it all. She spotted Thomas at a corner table, his fingers nervously tracing the rim of his coffee cup. As he noticed her, a brief flicker of something fear, regret, or perhaps resignation passed over his features. Thanks for coming, he said, gesturing for her to sit. Let us get straight to the point, Emily replied, her voice firmer than she felt. There's talk about you, Thomas. Whistleblowers, accusations, what's going on? He inhaled sharply, the expression on his face shifting from apprehension to a more resolute calm. I didn't want this to happen, he confessed, his gaze dropping to the table. "I've been set up, Emily. I need you to believe me." The intensity in his voice ignited a spark of doubt within her. But this was at the real crux of their interaction. "I can only believe what's true," she countered, maintaining eye contact. "You need to show me what really happened." As they exchanged stories, Emily began to sense the depth of his distress, parsing through his explanations and noticing the inconsistencies with each detail he provided. The determination to get to the bottom of this battle within her surged with new vigor. She was not just there as a friend, but as a seeker of truth for herself and those who relied on their integrity. However, as Thomas began to share damning pieces of information about others involved, Emily realized that trusting him might unravel more than just their relationship. It could expose her to consequences she had never considered. The conversation was no longer just about Thomas. It held implications that reached into her own future and the very fabric of her professional being. That a sudden revelation struck her. This situation was a test of everything she had learned both professionally and personally. Trust was a delicate thread, and she was standing at a precipice. "Do you feel responsible for those you might hurt?" she probed, her heart racing. "More than you know," he replied, his voice low. As the weight of his words settled in her, a realization dawned. She had more at stake in this story than she had anticipated. Yet just as she steeled herself to delve even deeper into the shadows of the revelation, a sudden noise broke their focus. Loud voices erupted from across the cafe. Pulling her worlds apart, Emily's instincts flickered, sensing that the confrontation was merely the beginning. The stakes were escalating, and as she glanced behind Thomas's shoulder, a figure emerged from the cafe's entrance, eyes set squarely on them with an intensity that sent chills down her spine. The unfolding drama suddenly felt far beyond their conversation. It was quickly morphing into something much darker. Her mind raced. What did this mean for her? And as clarity fell like a shroud, so did the tension, showcasing the imminent confrontation with truths that neither she nor Thomas were prepared to face. Emily's breath stopped in her throat as she squinted against the sun streaming through the cafe window. The figure looming in the doorway was unmistakable Detective Morrison. The reputation of the officer preceded him, a figure synonymous with relentless investigations and unforgiving outcomes. "Emily," Thomas murmured, panic surfacing in his voice, "we have to get out of here." The thread of fear coiled tightly in her chest. She could feel the tension radiating off him, the stakes higher than she ever anticipated. "Hold on," she whispered, forcing herself to recalibrate. This wasn't just about Thomas. It was about her convictions as a professional, and the truth that lay shrouded within their conversation was becoming alarmingly urgent. As Morrison approached, every step he took resonated like the ticking of a clock, counting down to something significant. Emily's body felt heavy, as if gravity had increased tenfold. The detective's intentions could unravel everything she was trying to navigate, and she had to prepare herself for possible confrontation. "Emily," the detective said, acknowledging her with a steady gaze, "I need to speak with you and Thomas." The words dripped with authority and urgency. "I'm not sure this is the right time," Emily replied, tightening her grip on her notebook. It felt like her anchor in this tumultuous sea, a way to organize her thoughts amid the chaos. The conversation from moments before hung in the air, thickening the narrative surrounding her. "It's urgent," Morrison pressed, his tone firm but not unkind. "We have evidence that could change everything." "It's about the accusation." "Stop," Emily interrupted, her instinct for self-preservation flaring. This was her field of expertise. The boundaries of trust and ethics within her career were murky enough without external pressures. "Why do you need to talk to us now? Can't this wait?" "No, it can't," he insisted, sustaining eye contact as if to drive his point home. "This is serious, and it may involve your safety as well. We have to discuss the allegations against Thomas." Her heart was racing. The implications haunted her. Did she want to entangle herself in this mess? She could already feel the professional boundaries blurring, and she knew sticking her neck out for Thomas could lead to devastating consequences not only for her career, but also for her conscience. "Thomas," she managed to say, her voice barely a whisper, "what did you get yourself involved in?" His eyes darted away from hers, guilt flashing across his face. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You have to believe me, Emily. There's more at stake than what you know." The detective's tone shifted slightly in urgency that struck Emily deeply. We're not accusing, but the time for caution is over. You need to decide if you want to know the truth. It was a collision of two worlds, her pursuit of professional integrity and the personal turmoil intertwining with Thomas's fate. Everything she had built her nursing career upon, trust, compassion, diligence, was teetering on the edge of this volatile moment. Morrison continued, undeterred, "The walls are closing in. You need to be prepared for what I have to show you." As the tension mounted, Emily's mind raced to catalog the implications sweeping towards her. She was trapped in a moral maze, standing at the crossroads of truth and potential ruin. What if uncovering the layers of deceit exposed her to danger? And yet, what if Thomas was telling the truth? Her instincts as a caretaker surged forward. She craved resolution, confirmation of her suspicions, and the hope of taking a stand not just for Thomas, but for the people who depended on her ethical compass. "Okay," she breathed, each word demanding resolution. "I'm in." Before she could embrace the consequences of her decision, the cafe door swung open again, and in walked a second figure, someone Emily hadn't anticipated. Recognizing the face ignited a wave of dread, though it also tinged her with resolve. The confrontation had just begun, but now it was palpable and poised to shatter her world even further. Was she prepared for the revelations ahead? And more importantly, would she be able to withstand whatever storm brewed from what lay beyond? Emily's focus sharpened as the unexpected figure stepped through the doorway. Her initial shock transformed into a cautious curiosity. The large frame of James Treadmore, the billionaire philanthropist known for his high-profile donations and charitable ventures, now stood before her, drawing immediate attention with his commanding presence. "Emily," he said, his voice a blend of empathy and urgency. "I heard you were in trouble." His words momentarily distracted her from the vortex of uncertainty swirling inside her mind. She hadn't seen James in years, yet his unforeseen arrival in the cafe infused her with a flicker of hope amid the tension and chaos. "James," she started, but he cut her off with a hand gesture that felt both protective and pleading. "Let us step outside," he suggested, glancing toward Morrison, who remained watchful but seemingly composed. "I want to talk away from prying ears. This may be more sensitive than you realize." Emily prided herself on being perceptive in high-stakes situations. She understood the weight behind James's words. With Morrison's unyielding scrutiny, she hesitated, caught between the detective's urgency and James's unexpected support. The implication of danger loomed heavily. She sensed a pivotal moment unfolding and the need to navigate it with shrewd calculation. "Fine," she responded, her resolve bubbling as she nodded towards Thomas, who remained just as bewildered. "But all three of us should be included." As they maneuvered to a private corner outside the cafe, the air shifted, filling with tension that was both suffocating and electrifying. Emily felt the surge of adrenaline coursing through her, bolstering her sense of determination. "Listen carefully," James began, leaning closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I'm aware of what is happening, and I believe Thomas isn't deeper than you think. If you're going to assist him, you need to prepare for the repercussions. There are forces at play that want to silence him." Emily's heart raced at the implications. Thomas fidgeted, his worry palpable, and she realized this moment was a test, a crucible forcing her to confront her convictions directly. "What do you know?" she probed, allowing her professional instincts to come to the forefront, even as the shadows of doubt began to cloud her judgment. "There's evidence linking Thomas to a scandal," James revealed, his tone grave. "But it's much larger than either of you imagine. Think of it not just as a personal conflict, but as a threat to your careers, too. If you choose to dig deeper, you could both become targets." Emily's mind raced as the weight of this revelation pressed down on her. The trust she had built her career on now felt fragile as the walls of her reality threatened to close in. "What do you suggest we do?" she asked, determined to forge a path forward despite the risks that resolve unearthing a wellspring of courage from within. James hesitated, as if gauging the gravity of this moment. "You need to become proactive. Leave no stone unturned. Connecting the dots is vital, and I can help. I have resources at my disposal that could lead us to the truth." The prospect of enlisting James's help introduced an unexpected ally into a narrative that felt increasingly isolating. Yet, shadows of doubt lingered. Trusting a billionaire carried its own set of risks, and the ethical implications weighed heavily on her conscience. As she contemplated the alignment between her professional duties and personal ethics, the stakes raised exponentially. Are you willing to step into this storm, Emily? I'll support you, but you need to embrace the chaos, he implored, piercing her with an intense gaze that promised both danger and revelation. The moment crystallized, weighing her options against the backdrop of a choice she had not anticipated loomed before her. Would she lean into the unknown or retreat into her current safety? Every aspect of her professional identity hummed with possibility and danger, demanding she make a choice that could reshape everything she believed in. The time has come to decide who you truly want to be, Morrison interjected, his voice cutting through the moment. As they stood poised on the precipice of revelation, Emily's mind boiled with possibilities, and the burning question of her own values clashed with her protective instincts. Would she take the plunge into a tangled web of corruption and deceit, or retreat into the realm of safety she had painstakingly built? Let us do this, she finally articulated, a steely determination embracing her tone. As she stepped forward into the murky waters of the unknown, a chilling realization washed over her. This was just the beginning. Would she be equipped to face the adversaries lurking in the shadows and confront the turbulence ahead? With her heart pounding, she knew the true battle for her life and Thomas' had just begun. The cool breeze swept through the alley as Emily, James, and Thomas stood in a makeshift huddle, leaving behind the familiar ambience of the cafe. The muted sounds of the city faded, replaced by the urgency of their whispered conversation. As Emily's heart drummed in her chest, she could feel the weight of the impending decisions pressing down like an anvil. "All right," she said, exuding a newfound authority. "What's our first move?" James regarded her with a perceptive gaze, the gleam of admiration evident in his eyes. "We need to secure the evidence surrounding this scandal. The more we uncover about what Thomas is facing, the better we can protect him." "Evidence?" Thomas interjected, his voice tinged with anxiety. "What evidence do you have, James?" "Connections, reports, testimonies," James replied, the urgency in his voice heightened. "It's all in a secure network I've established. However, I can't do this alone. I need both of you on board fully. That means you both must be prepared to step beyond your comfort zones." Emily caught Thomas's nervous glance, sensing his palpable fear. He was not just a colleague. He was a person caught in the crosshairs of a storm, and now she was woven into the fabric of his fight. "Comfort zones?" Emily scoffed lightly, her determination setting in. "After what we've just learned, I don't think any of us have that luxury." James nodded, his expression shifting to admiration. "That's the spirit. But it's more than dedication. You both need to sharpen your instincts. Make connections, and think critically. Every piece of information can lead us to powerful people who want to maintain their secrecy." As the plan began to form, Emily couldn't deny a swell of determination rising within her. She had always been resourceful, but now she felt the stirrings of her hidden potential. "What do we do first?" she asked, her mind racing, crafting the strategy. "First, you'll both need to review the last reports Thomas filed. There may be discrepancies or even clues embedded within them," James instructed. "Then, we'll digitally dig for patterns that link back to the sources of the scandal." "Are you suggesting I get into documents I shouldn't be accessing?" Thomas stiffened. James met his flustered gaze. "Exactly. And understand you may be risking a lot here, but you're not doing it alone. Emily, your analytical background will be invaluable. Use that instinct to pick up on the subtle clues." The challenge sent an exhilarating rush through Emily. Each new task was a brush with the complexity of the situation. She felt her professional resolve harden into something more resilient. "I'm in," she declared, her voice steady. "But we'll need safe communication. We can't risk being overheard or traced." James smiled, a hint of pride creeping into his demeanor. "I already have a secure app we can use. I'll get you both set up right away." As they exchanged snippets of their past experiences and skills, Emily found herself reflecting on moments where she felt capable, realizing she had faced adversities before, but never quite like this. The path was fraught with shadows, yet she recognized the stakes were high enough to challenge her innate desire to hide until the winds calmed. "I can start analyzing those reports tonight," she noted, shifting the focus back to their mission. Each step was now an act of defiance against complacency. Good. And I'll gather the necessary tools for our next move, James stated, a plan crystallizing before them that as they split up, the anticipation of what lay ahead gnawed at Emily. She stepped away, her mind racing with thoughts on how to balance her career ambitions with the moral questions arising. The fabric of her journey was shifting, pulling her toward profound revelations about her principles and capabilities. Emily paused, reflecting on the unsettling but exhilarating path she had chosen. Would she be able to sift through the treachery enveloping her and emerge with clarity and purpose? Just then, her phone buzzed, a message flashing across the screen, an unexpected lead into the scandal they were unraveling. The tension surged within her. She grasped the phone tightly. This time, she had to be ready. The very essence of her career was at stake, dangling on a precipice of danger and opportunity. What dark secrets did the next message hold? Emily's heart raced as she read the message, a mix of dread and excitement brewing within her. The unexpected lead felt like a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. Her instincts nudged at her, urging her to act. She breathed deeply, shaking off lingering doubts. This was her opportunity to uncover the truth, but it also felt like stepping onto a tightrope. With a stern resolve, she opened her laptop, creating a strategic workspace in the quiet solitude of her apartment. Flickering lights above her formed a faint halo, the only illumination in a room that otherwise echoed her growing commitment. She began reviewing Thomas's reports meticulously, scanning for discrepancies. Each word loomed larger than the last, demanding her focus. As she worked, fragments of memories flashed through her mind. Moments in her career where she hesitated, choosing the safe path over confrontation or challenge. But today felt different. The gravity of the situation pressed upon her, a combination of moral imperative and professional ambition. She couldn't afford distraction or self-doubt. Fingers flying over the keys, she segmented the reports, noting anomalies that stood out like flames in a sea of text. Amidst the statistics and figures, she unearthed a pattern: unmarked entries on project expenditures that correlated suspiciously with transactions made to shadowy third parties. The realization jolted her. These weren't merely operational discrepancies. They hinted at something sinister beneath the surface. Emily set aside her growing urgency to confirm her findings. This wasn't just about gathering evidence. It was about crafting a coherent narrative, a roadmap through the murky waters of deceit that surrounded them. The dynamic of the team was beginning to change. She felt an awakening within herself, a nuance of leadership she hadn't acknowledged before. Her phone buzzed again, shattering the silence. It was a message from James, offering words of encouragement. "You're doing great, Emily. Let us meet tomorrow to discuss what you find. Your insights will make or break this investigation." She couldn't shake the feeling that his faith in her was both a blessing and a burden. Rising expectations created a dual-edged sword of motivation and pressure. Could she really rise to the occasion? Or would she falter under the weight of responsibility? She pressed on, her eyes piercing through the screens of data and governance structures. The moral dilemmas clawed at her consciousness. Every choice she made had repercussions that rippled outward, affecting not just her trajectory, but also the lives connected to Thomas and the unfolding scandal. After hours of combing through numbers and notes, something clicked deep within her. A hidden capability was emerging. Her analytical skills morphed into an instinctive sense of direction, guiding her as she discerned connections others might overlook. It was exhilarating and terrifying at once, allowing her to embrace what had previously felt like an abstract goal: justice. Finally, the night waned, and Emily leaned back in her chair, exhaustion and exhilaration entwined. The fragments of information had formed an intricate tapestry. They were dangerous, but they could also be empowering if wielded correctly. Could she confront the antagonists lurking in the shadows with the very evidence they sought to conceal? As dawn broke, Emily felt a sense of urgency surge within her veins. She couldn't afford to lose momentum. The clock was ticking. Standing before the mirror, she practiced her words, aiming to embody the confident leader she aspired to be. In that moment, she felt alive, a distinct transformation unfolding. With her heart pounding, she opened the secure app to reach out to James and Thomas. As she sent the message outlining their next steps, a nagging thought crossed her mind. Would they all be prepared for the truth they were about to confront together? The room felt charged with anticipation as she turned her gaze to the horizon outside the window. The stakes were higher than ever, and her resolve informed anew. Purpose. She wasn't just uncovering secrets. She was challenging a system entrenched in corruption. Tomorrow promised a confrontation that could either solidify her newfound strength or unravel the very fabric of her commitment to truth. As she closed her laptop with a determined snap, a sense of clarity washed over her. This was her moment. But from the corner of her eye, she spotted a shadow flitting past the window, a fleeting figure she couldn't quite identify. Suddenly, the gravity of their quest loomed darker. What distractions lay in wait? Did danger lurk closer than she imagined? The following morning found Emily engulfed in an atmosphere thick with tension. The sunlight streamed into her apartment, illuminating the chaos of her workspace, a blend of printed reports and digital notes strewn across the table. Each piece of paper held fragments of truth that could either solidify her position as a leader or plunge her and her colleagues into danger. Her thoughts danced erratically as she paced before the mirror, kryptonite against self-doubt. A monologue rehashed her strategy, the words echoing in her mind. Each iteration revealed nuances she hadn't considered. As she prepared, an unsettling realization washed over her. This wasn't merely about the investigation. It was about her role in this unfolding drama. Could she be the driving force they needed, not only to face the lurking threats, but to inspire action and accountability within her team? Stepping into the bustling office, Emily felt the weight of eyes upon her. Whispers lingered in the air, tinged with uncertainty. She steeled herself, recalling the night's revelations, the imbalance she witnessed in the financial records, the patterns she had discerned through sheer determination. No one else could identify the intricate gaming of numbers. It was her responsibility to lead them through the fog of confusion, to articulate the chaos convincingly and powerfully. As she settled into the conference room, anticipation crackled. James arrived punctually, a quote of spirited motivation tumbling off his lips, an inspiring facade she could both appreciate and resent. They were here to do much more than just confront anomalies. They were to confront moral decay and personal demons laid bare through the evidence. "Good morning, Emily. Ready to dive into the fray?" he asked, tone steady but eyes betraying curiosity. Emily nodded, heart racing. "I believe I've found significant inconsistencies in Thomas's reports. We need to approach this delicately but decisively." James leaned forward, his eyebrows knitting together in curiosity. The intensity of her focus was palpable, drawing him into her world where every figure held secrets just waiting to be exposed. "Tell me everything." Spinning the narrative came easier than she anticipated. The disparate entries transformed from mere numbers into a story of betrayal, drawing gasps from James as he processed each connection. Emily realized that her voice was gaining strength. She was no longer speaking from a place of uncertainty, but from authority born of her diligence and insight. But as she laid out her findings, the conversation shifted. A sense of urgency hung heavy in the air. They needed to prepare for potential counterattacks from Thomas's associates. The deeper they delved into this investigation, the more evident it became that they were not just confronting a financial scandal. They were stepping onto a battlefield littered with unseen enemies. That a sudden knock at the door shattered the focused atmosphere. Emily's heart leapt into her throat. What if it was someone who had discovered their investigation? Anxiety knotted within her as she exchanged glances with James, words swirling in their minds about the threat that had begun to encroach upon their pursuit of the truth. "Stay alert," she hissed softly, her instincts brimming with the tension of an impending confrontation. There was absolutely no turning back. As they exchanged quick, penetrating glances, the significance of the moment deepened. Would they strengthen their resolve or yield to fear? With a deep breath, Emily stood her ground, ready to face whoever stood on the other side of that door. The very core of her development surged within her. The time had come to assert not just her findings, but her newfound identity as a formidable force striving for change. As the door creaked open, the figure that emerged was familiar, yet wholly unexpected. "Emily, we need to talk. It's urgent." The world felt as if it paused in that moment, as uncertain terrain opened up beneath her feet. What new challenge awaited, and would she be prepared to meet it head-on? Emily stood at the precipice of an unexpected confrontation, her heart racing as the familiar voice broke through the tension hanging thick in the air. Jason, the man who had once supported her and now represented her past, seemed both familiar and estranged. The revelation that he had returned shattered the delicate equilibrium she had carefully crafted since embarking on this journey into murky waters. "I guess you didn't expect to see me here," Jason said, his demeanor now a blend of concern and something unrecognizable. "Not in a million years," Emily replied, steeling herself. She was no longer the woman he had left behind. Empowered by the recent events and bolstered by her commitment to truth and integrity, she faced him with conviction. "You don't understand," he continued, a pleading tone in his voice. "I want to help you. I can't stand by and watch you put your life at risk. You don't know the people you're dealing with." Emily's resolve solidified. "But I do know who I am now, Jason. Those people have created this nightmare, and we're determined to expose them, regardless of the cost. You left me when I needed you the most, and now I stand taller because of that." She sensed the blood rushing through her veins, a powerful undercurrent marking her newfound strength. In that moment of clarity, she realized how far she had come. No longer would she lean on the past, but build on her present, and the future she envisioned. Jason's expression shifted from concern to something like admiration. She felt empowered. "I'm moving forward," she declared. "I'm not here to lean on you or anyone else. I'm here to stand my ground." "What about Thomas?" he pressed. "Thomas represents more than his mistakes and missteps. He embodies a potential for redemption and accountability. Besides, he has trusted me with a narrative that deserves to be told the truth." Emily could see the conflict on Jason's face, torn between a desire to protect and a recognition of her independence. "I thought you chose fear over courage," he finally said, his voice softer now. "I did once," she admitted, briefly glancing back at the road behind her. "But this is no longer about fear. Fear only fuels complacency. If we're to achieve real change, I need to embrace my courage, no matter how uncomfortable it may be." Jason studied her closely, his demeanor shifting without further words. In that moment, something deeper had emerged. Their relationship had transformed into mutual respect, and she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. "Then let us not waste time," Emily stated decisively, her voice steady. "If you have information, now is the time to share it. I need all the help I can get." As they continued this unexpected collaboration, Emily found clarity that transcended all doubts. She had taken charge of her narrative, diligently advocating for her patients' rights while seeking justice in this chaotic realm. Days turned into sleepless nights filled with research, strategy meetings, and exchanging insights led by Emily's fierce dedication. Each piece of evidence she collected reinforced her confidence, demonstrating her capacity for leadership among the complexities surrounding not only Thomas but the entire corruption scandal that was exhilarating. And she began to feel recognized along with the unexpected friendships formed throughout this journey. On the day they uncovered pivotal evidence that could demolish the false narratives and protect all involved, Emily awoke with a sense of accomplishment she had never known. Gathered in the boardroom with James, Thomas, and Jason, they shared the triumph of their hard work, the revealing of the truth that could alter the course of their lives. Their eyes sparkled as they outlined their next steps, driven by the adrenaline and camaraderie built during the challenging weeks. In summation, it wasn't merely about the evidence surfacing. It was the journey of empowerment Emily had undergone, transforming not only her professional outlook, but her core beliefs about integrity, courage, and loyalty. "I stand by my own story, and I will chase truth relentlessly," Emily vowed to them, her voice resonating strong. They exchanged looks of affirmation, tidal waves of recognition cutting through the earlier skepticism. Emily had demonstrated her competency, secured her unshakable position among her colleagues, and transformed her professional trajectory. In confronting the chaotic storm, she conquered personal fears, established her voice, and decidedly cultivated a resolve solidified by the trials faced. The journey had forever altered her. Her identity as an advocate was no longer uncertain. She had achieved more than exposing corruption. She had redefined herself as a capable leader, establishing principles that extended beyond her past. As they prepared for the next phase of presentation that would unveil their findings, Emily felt a profound sense of pride wash over her. She had made palpable change happen and embraced her authentic self, ready to pave the way to a new beginning. The urgency pulsed within her, a call to inform others about the intricacies of ethical responsibility and strength through vulnerability. So now, as her journey reaches its crescendo, I urge you, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Do it for the journey we've shared. Comment your reactions and theories about this epic transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for stories that inspire and uplift. Don't wait even one more second to share. Transformations like Emily's deserve recognition.